Good morning, everyone. As Regina mentioned, I've just started at the Australian Cyber Collaboration Centre about 2 months ago. So it's a really exciting position, interesting position, something different to what I've done in the past. But being part of the Lot 14 precinct and what's actually happening in that environment is pretty special to see it all growing there with startups around the place, the amount of innovation that's happening around there, different companies that are coming on site every week is quite amazing. They're almost out of space already, but they're waiting to build their 16-storey building in the middle, which is the Entrepreneur and Innovation Centre. So that'll be a fantastic project, and an Aboriginal Cultural Arts Centre down the side as well. So it's really transforming that whole area of the old Royal Adelaide Hospital. So what I'm going to talk about today is more around the high-level stuff. I'm not going to get into the very deep AI because I'm sure you've got plenty of that coming during your talks today. I'll talk more around cyber and cyber awareness and what we're doing at the A3C. So obviously, data is one of the most important things in any organisation, if not the most these days, with the rapid growth of the digital economy. So it presents a lot of opportunities there for obviously innovation and efficiency, but also along with that comes the threats as well, and what you need to do to actually protect that. So there's lots of interesting stats around, and I always find it amusing that many years ago when I started, I think my first exposure to IT was in the finance sector, and I got the privilege to work in a government data centre which serviced a fair bit of the South Australian government. And I do remember the IT security guys were those cops that sat down the corridor in the back room. No one wanted to know them. They're always pestering you to change your password, all these sorts of things. And everyone wondered, what's the point of all this? We've got passwords that are, 6 characters long. Everyone's written it down everywhere, these sorts of things. And it's amazing now with the emergence of the internet and everything else that's happening in the world. Now, cyber is at the front. It's at the front of everything. So everyone needs to think about this going forward. One of my roles is actually speaking at a lot of these events that take place around South Australia or even online across different industry groups. So one of our main aims is to try and get awareness out there and build resilience in the cyber area. And it's interesting when you talk to the SME sector about some of the things around, only certain industries are vulnerable. And I remember at one event, an SME who just started said, well, what if I said to you, it'll never happen to me? And I said, well, the easiest way to find out about that is I'll introduce you to someone where it has happened and see how it's really impacted their business and the pain they've gone through to restore and get back online again. It's quite devastating. Also, we work closely with the Australian Cyber Security Centre as well. They provide a lot of information and a good first point of contact, particularly when you've got major issues. But they have a lot of collateral for all different areas, from critical infrastructure right through to small business. So I'd encourage anyone that doesn't know where to go. That's a good point. That's a good starting point to get a whole lot of information, and then you can go from there. Some of the stats are quite, I guess, quite scary when you think about it. I think AusCyber did a survey last year, and the findings they came out with, if there was a major digital disruption in Australia, and we've seen some around the place with Toll and universities and all sorts of other organisations, but the estimate there is if we had an event that lasted 4 weeks, that could be an economic impact of around about $30 billion, and it could affect 160,000 jobs. So this is the sort of impact that we're talking about, and it is real. We're seeing it every day around the world, particularly if it's shutting down your operations and you've got to send people home, like the JBS one the other week with the meat industry. Those sorts of things are, live examples. There's also different levels of threats out there as well. So to me, it ranges from the really sophisticated state actors that are using AI, bots, all sorts of different things. They're not sitting there just dreaming this up. It's well organised, right down to what you call the opportunists. So these are the 16-year-olds sitting in the bedroom trying to crack the CIA and those sorts of things. But they can cause a lot of trouble out there. It could be denial of service. It could be just scams, those sorts of things. Phishing is a very popular one. I actually saw that during my career when I was in a managing director role, and firsthand you can actually see what happens and how people react. And it's quite an experience. That happened 5 years ago when sort of phishing was sort of coming on the scene. But one of my accountants in Melbourne actually fell for it and thought I was emailing for like 3 days, please pay this $40,000. And in the end he did, and he came running down the corridor and said, Mike, I've finally done it, sorry about that. And I said, what have you done? He told me what he did. He went back to the bank. It was gone in a matter of minutes. And so it was a lesson learnt there. And it was simple as, have a look at my email address. That's not my email address. You click behind it and you can see it was a Hotmail address. I guess some other myths here around that, that software, like particularly antivirus and anti-malware software, is going to keep you safe. It's not. It can protect you against certain things, but it goes a lot further than that. It's really around the physical side as well. To me, I always think it's around the cultural side as well. So it needs everyone in the organisation needs to be aware of what their responsibilities are in this area to protect the organisation. We see this all the time where, it doesn't take very long for someone to actually infiltrate an organisation, and it's people inadvertently opening emails or attachments, those sorts of things, and it kicks off a process within your organisation. The other thing too, this is something I guess I've learned a lot more over the last few months actually, is around the insider threat side of things. That they say that nearly 70% of most of the attacks are actually caused by insider threats, and that can be accidental or deliberate. The accidental side is what I've described before, just clicking on links and those sorts of things. So it's good for organisations, depending how big you are, how small, you can still do these sorts of exercises around just a phishing exercise. Click on this if you think, that is a phishing email that's coming through. Don't open links, those sorts of things. But it really is getting that message right through the whole organisation. This is a bugbear of everyone's, of course, around passwords. And I actually got given something many years ago from Defence, and it was how to make up a password, and it was a classic little matrix of alphabetical characters that then translated. You make a word up and it would translate to numbers. So it's like 6 characters. That wouldn't fly today, but that's where it was those years ago. Now you look at it now, it's up to like 25, all these different sorts of characters in there. Remember phrases, all those sorts of things. So I think some of these other software applications are out like LastPass and Norton Vault, all these sorts of things. I think people are subscribing to those more and more, where they can keep everything secure in one area. But it really is it really is painful, I think, when you do click onto things and here's another ID and another password. Try and remember, like 100 of those, and of course people start using the same one, which creates the problem. I think another myth too is that a lot of people think that it's the responsibility of the IT department, that they'll look after you completely, or it could be outsourced to a managed service provider as well, particularly if you're a small business. Trusting in that is, you need to check on that. You need to make sure that they've got the right credentials, those sorts of things. But it goes back to everyone playing their part in the organisation to keep them safe. I'll just talk a little bit around the A3C and what we're about. So you can have lots of war stories around what's going on out there in the world, and it would put you off completely and probably go back to paper-based processes, but we're not going to do that because there's so many opportunities here and opportunities for growth in this sector as well. So the A3C was established last year in July. It's funded by, well, the kickoff funding is from the state government. So it was to the tune of around about $8 or $9 million. And there's a facility that's been established down at Lot 14 in the Eleanor Harrell building. So we're on level 1 and on the ground floor of that building. And it provides a space where our members can come in. So we're not for profit. So we're not a government agency. We're not for profit. So we're spun off there and we report back to government on what we're actually doing. But our main aim is around cyber awareness and building resilience. So it's a member-based organisation, and so we have around about 40 members today, and that's growing. We have some really good physical facilities there. There's a cyber range that's been built, and the intentions for that is that it could be scaled up and down particularly for SMEs, and also to a defence level if it was needed. Our only issue with that is if we did build it at defence level, zone 4, then no one could actually use it apart from people who are working on very top secret projects. So there's a balancing act there to actually sort of maybe keep that classification down a little bit lower, so everyone can use it. And if it ever was needed, we can actually ramp it up to that level at a later date. This is a bit of a snapshot of some of the members that we have. So you see it's a fairly eclectic group in there, from universities to large defence primes to startup companies to law firms to even general business. So RAA, as an example, you know, they're a member. I asked them why did they join, and the common answer I get back is that they want to be part of this ecosystem. They know they have a pretty good cybersecurity team, but they felt like being connected in another way in this ecosystem would actually help them stay abreast of what's going on, and they can connect to other people a lot better. The other reaction I get is that people are also joining up to join a fight. And I think that's one of the common things that you see in this area, is that no single person can actually come up with all the answers to resist this. You're better off fighting together, sharing and collaborating to actually build and fight these attacks that are coming through. So it's really pleasing to see the work that's going on between the universities and some of the organisations such as DST and other companies, and what they're actually working on at the moment. I've been brought up to date with so many different projects over the last few weeks. It's pretty amazing some of the things that are going on in this space. You know, even to, as I say, space, even in the space area, with satellites that are going up now from South Australia and the Space Operations Control Centre that's just down the road. Cyber is a key part of that as well. So, and that highlights that with the advance of technology, with IoT, you know, those devices that are everywhere today, it's expected to end up, you know, around, you know, 70 billion devices in a few years' time. How do we actually maintain that? You know, where was that sourced from? How do you keep that patched? Those sorts of things, if you need to. So it opens up a whole lot of different areas there, and opportunities for people as well. So what I've seen is a lot of companies that are playing in niche areas in this area, because no one can do everything in this space, from consulting through to that sort of high-end technical research area. I mentioned the cyber range. So the idea of the cyber range is it's a room that has around 30 workstations in there, and the idea of it is you can split this room in two, so you can have a red team and a blue team. You can have capture the flag exercises. You can use it for training. It can be used for product testing as well. The way it's been set up is the networks are separated, so you can actually do that. You can hook back to your own systems if you needed to, your own environment, or have a replication of your environment in that area to make it look like you are actually in your workspace or whatever you're doing. So my main aim with this one is to get this area utilised. I think it's a fantastic asset that we have, but I want to see it utilised. We also do training as well. So we have to be careful in what we're doing here. We're not seen as a commercial business here. We need to work with our members, and that's what we're doing here. So the training courses that we're developing range from, we're doing IRAP assessor training. We've already run 3 courses of that over the last few weeks, and we have that booked out nearly for the rest of this calendar year. And they've been very well received. So we're doing those in the range, and there's people from all walks of life that are actually doing that in that space. There's a lot of people that need to get reassessed in that area as well. On the workforce collaboration side of things, one of our other missions is we're trying to help build the workforce here. So there's a shortage estimated around Australia of around 17,000 positions in cyber. So this is one of the things we're trying to help promote as well, with universities, with the education sector, TAFEs included, schools, to get that awareness out there. So we're building out the ground floor of the Eleanor Harrell building where we are. We're going to have a showcase. I'll call it a showcase secure operations centre. So people can get a look and feel about what it actually looks like in this sort of space, because sometimes it's very hard to visualize these things. And also with people coming out of university as well, who have maybe not worked in this area, give them a taste of what it's actually like in that area before they enter into the workforce, even a try before you buy. So there's some of the things we're doing in that space. In terms of resilience, I think, you know, people can look at this, they're on different spectrums here. From a basic cyber health check is probably the best place to start with any business, and right through to that really high level defence readiness. And people would have heard the Essential 8. So this is one of the key things that I talk to people about, particularly in the SME area. A lot haven't heard of this, and they don't understand a lot of the terminology that's used in this. So there's a huge opportunity in this space to get that message out. And a lot of it, you know, people who've been in this area for quite a while will say, well, that's the basic stuff that you do. But not everyone knows that, particularly in the backup area. Having regular backups is one thing, restoring them and make sure they work is another. And a few businesses have been found out over the last few months in that space. So wrapping up, the cyber ecosystem is quite large. I saw a diagram of the federal government, I guess, a map of where cyber sits in federal government. It was like a map. It was like a spider's web of all these different areas, right from ASD right through to the Privacy Commissioner to all sorts of different areas. It plays so many. It's in so many different areas, and it's very hard to navigate. So our role is to try and help people navigate through that. We can help people get pointed in the right direction and hopefully set you on the right way in terms of making your business resilient. So I'll leave it there for now because I know my time's up. And thanks very much for listening.